All right, our final science video for the Create a Pulley assignment is just to take a look at some of the questions and give you some ideas on how you could answer them knowing you don't have a spring scale at home. So we'll skip down to the observations and you might have to make some changes. So I wasn't lifting marbles. I decided to lift something heavier so I could feel the weight a little bit easier. So I decided to lift that's fine there. I decided to lift a water bottle. So you're going to just, like I said, work with what you have today. Okay. So what was the force required using the system I built? Well, I actually had two systems. Oh, without using the system I built, so I got to read those questions carefully. You might miss an important word like without. Remember, on my spring scale, it was 800 grams of force. I'll just write 800 grams. And that was when I just lifted it without anything. Now you might say, because you don't have a spring scale, you might need to say something more like, what was the force required? Probably wasn't super heavy for you. You could maybe skip this question because you can answer question 2 kind of based on how that felt. So I mean, you could probably lift it. So you might say, I could lift it fairly easily. I don't think it's going to be, no one's lifting anything super heavy that I know of. So this might be your observation if you don't have a spring scale. I could lift it fairly easily. What was the force required to lift the marbles using the system you created? Well, using my spring scale, it was actually a bit more. When I set up my full pulley system, it was about 1,000 grams to get weight off the floor. And it held the weight in place. Oops, second time I tried to spell weight wrong. Held weight in place at around 700 grams, less than 800 grams. But if you didn't have a spring scale, you just might want to use some observations. So you might say it felt a bit tougher to get the weight off the ground. It was easier to raise and lower with the Gatorade bottle spinning. It might be an idea of what you write. I'm not exactly sure what you're going to write. Okay, but just thinking about how that went. So this is my spring scale answer, but this here is just how it felt. It felt easier. That's what we want to think about. So draw a picture of the system that you built using the materials provided. Use arrows to show the direction of the Dixie cup and marbles moved and the direction of force you applied. So for me, I'm going to draw a really as basic as it gets drawing. So here's one chair. Here's another chair. Here's my axle. Here's my Gatorade bottle. Here's my rope coming this way down the Gatorade bottle. And my basket, my yogurt container. So that's my weight. I could even try to draw the water bottle peeking at the top. And then my rope coming back down the back. Okay. And I want to use arrows. So my weight went up and down. And the direction of my force was kind of sideways and down. So I can't really show that in my diagram because my artistic abilities are a bit limited, but I can just write that the direction of force applied, right, use part of the question in your answer, was down and away from pulley. And as long as your direction is more downward instead of upward, you've at least accomplished one part of a pulley system. And then time to think, why do you think the system you built reduced the amount of force needed to move the marbles? I don't know if I want to give you an answer for that. Or I think what I want you to think about this question is, why do you think the system you built, what made it easier? So for me, I would say Gatorade bottle spinning reduced the amount of force, the friction if I wanted to, the amount of friction, which is when things rub together, which made lifting it easier. Also felt easier to pull down instead of up. One thing I noticed when I did this, just to practice, is when I held that weight up and I just kept holding it like this, my arm actually, I could start to feel my muscles getting a little bit sore. But when I was holding it down using the pulley and I could keep that weight up in the air, I could have kept it up in the air for a very long time before I got any muscle pain. Did your system allow you to change the direction of the force? That is kind of the big question that we're getting into. Because we don't have a spring scale, this is something we can see and feel, and I'm interested to see your answer and your explanation. So hopefully this video gives you some ideas on how you could adapt this project to make it work at home. Thanks for watching, especially if you made it to the end of this third video. Happy sciencing.